morning and welcome to Bum Slot Thursdays morning show with Lou and Tim.
It's bumps. You can only get one leg up, Mama.
Yeah.
It's bum slide. That means we put our hands in the air, our feet in the air, and we just slide into Friday.
Now, if I see you on a bus, I want to see your feet in the air and your hands up in the air.
You kill me.
If I see you as a passenger on a bus today or in a cab.
She's already on fire, ladies and gentlemen. She's had me in stitches for the first 2 minutes we've been sitting behind this desk waiting to go live. Oh my gosh, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well.
Opening night.
It was opening night last night. You know what? It really went very well, and the audience was phenomenal.
Awesome.
It's, you know, sometimes you just get to the point in rehearsal where you just need an audience, and that's the final thing to push you over the edge and really bring the show together.
Well, because they make you realize that you're doing it right.
Well, and there's also reactions to things that you don't anticipate, and that gives you a whole new energy.
Ah.
But I fell down the stairs.
You fell down the stairs?
Well, I just tripped a little bit in the bows.
There's no tripping a little bit.
I fell down the stairs.
Yeah, did you?
Well, I didn't fall. I didn't face plant.
Good.
But I went flying.
Did you?
Yeah.
And you got an injury on your forehead from bashing yourself with a guitar, and you're tripping down the stairs. Why is this fun?
Musical theater is not supposed to be a contact sport.
No.
Ticket sales are going great, so if you want to see the show, I really recommend that you get online.
And there's a matinee on Sunday.
Yeah, but even that is selling. So I think there's only 50 tickets left for one of these nights. So yeah. Anyway,
awesome.
I hope that people continue to enjoy it. And director Lucas Beaver's done just a great job, and a great crew, great stage management, really a great experience all around.
Good.
Ronnie Dallison in the orchestra pit with all those musicians, so much fun.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
It must be just like, and when it comes all together, because it's a big team you're working with.
3 months of rehearsal for this cast, you know, and the things they do. I mean, you're talking about people who have careers that work all day. Teachers who spend a day in a classroom with kids, and mothers of twins, and gentlemen. Guys, but my part is not that large. There's people who are on stage a lot more than I am, whose lives are far more complicated than mine, and you get home from work at 5 o'clock and you're in rehearsal 6:30 until 10 o'clock at night, and this goes on for 3 months.
You got to be committed.
These volunteers, these performers, they really deserve the accolades that they're getting, because it's a great thing for the city. So there you go.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
I have a quote. You're welcome. I have a quote. Isn't it funny how nobody notices how much you do until you stop doing it? Right?
Ain't that the truth?
Right? You think, oh, geez, nobody's noticing, and they aren't, because nobody ever says, like, good job, way to go. But as soon as you stop, they're like,
yeah.
What? What?
It's true. Like, for instance, I can't get in my side door because Keith's in Sudbury and I don't shovel.
Nice, Keith. Thanks. Thanks, Keith, for earning a living.
Why can't I get out of my house? Why is the snow so high? I don't understand how this happened.
Try the hairdryer.
No.
Really, it works.
That's you. It's American Hey ho, ho, ho. It's American Thanksgiving, gobble gobble.
Happy Thanksgiving, you guys.
Yes, to our American friends.
Like, all the best. Seriously, you guys have some challenges, and you just need to eat turkey and get into a food coma. Just forget everything.
Forget it all.
Yeah.
And, you know, don't worry about the fact that in Sioux, Michigan, you're not going to have pot stores. But give thanks for the fact that you can still order through the... Can I order through the mail in the U.S.?
I don't know. I don't know either. Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario hasn't decided whether or not we're going to have a pot store.
We haven't?
No. But I think if Sioux, Michigan has decided they shouldn't, I think we should.
Except what good is that to the Americans? Because they can't drive across here and buy the pot and bring it back over.
But what we could do is we could build a huge hotel and amusement area on the waterfront, entice them over. They could buy their dope here. They could watch 3D movies. They could eat chips out of a vending machine, and then they could go home straight.
Straight,
right?
Yeah, they'd have to. Well, but that's why they stay in the hotel. That's
right. So you stay overnight. You have a little toot.
And then when they go back across, they have to just say that they were at the casino.
Yeah. Did you smoke dope?
No, because they won't get back in the country.
No.
Wait, how does that work if you're an American? I know if you're a Canadian.
Well, in Michigan, it's different now, right? Because it's legal there.
It's going to be in January, I think.
December.
But my question is, but it's still a federal thing, regardless of this. Like in BC and Washington State, you still can't say that you toked while you're in Canada.
No, that's right.
Even though it's legal in the state you're going into.
Yeah.
Because it's a federal law.
Yes.
But I don't, so wait a second. But what if you're an American who comes to Canada and then you say, well, yes, I came over to go to that hotel, and then you want to get back into your own country? Can they say, you're under arrest? Francis, I gotta find this out. What?
You know
I
what?
understand if you're a Canadian citizen and they ask you, do you smoke recreationally, that they can turn you back, they can actually ban you from the country.
They can say, yeah, you're not coming in.
But what if you're an American who admits that while you were in Canada, you went to a cannabis hotel, and then you go cannabis hotel, and then you go back to your own country and say, yeah, while I was in Canada, I toked. Can they say you can never come back into the U.S. again?
Well, I think there's discussion around that because some people are concerned that Border Patrol, the agencies, will have too much control over stuff like that. Because
I need to find this out.
I read an article about how if a Border Patrol officer turns you away, there's stuff you can do about it, like prove to the agency that you are not an addict.
That's right. Well, that's the yes. They can. They ask you to do that.
Yeah.
They'll ask you to go to a doctor that they approve of to get a note saying that you're not an addict, and then you got to go back and give them the note. It's like.
But the main bottom line of this whole horrible situation is you miss the cheese sale. The Velveeta cheese blocks go on sale. You get turned back around. The next day they're not on sale anymore. So why are you even going across there? Right? So don't smoke dope. Or go get a big case of Philadelphia cream cheese. Velveeta.
Then come back across. Then toke and eat the cheese.
Yeah, and then go at the border and go.
But we're not suggesting that anyone should.
No.
I mean, if you want to.
Don't smoke if you don't want to.
And that's the whole thing about laws.
Right? Well, that's right. It's a law.
It's like if you don't like gay marriage, then don't have a gay wedding.
Don't be gay. Just like that. Turn it off.
If I could just do that for a day.
Oh my gosh.
What would happen?
What a mess.
If I could be straight for a day.
The women would run screaming from the area. Tim's straight.
Hey, look, I'll pretend I'm straight. The Greyhounds beat the Sudbury Wolves 7-4.
Look at you, sports guy. You jock, you.
That's exciting, though.
That's huge.
I'm very supportive of the Greyhounds.
Yes. Yeah, and all the details on the game are on Sioux Online. Alex Parr went and
great. He did.
Man, he just he
covers it well.
He kind of knows sports. I'm thinking
he does. This is the anniversary of Kennedy's assassination, 1963.
Well, happy.
John F.
Good
Kennedy.
for you, Greyhounds. JFK's dead.
That was my segue. I'm just looking at notes.
Okay, segue. 63, eh?
Imagine this.
I was 3 years old.
I was a year and a little bit. So I'm just picturing my mom, because my mother and father loved President Kennedy.
Me too. My parents loved him.
I can just imagine my mom was at home with me as a little baby, and all of a sudden it would have come on the news, and she would have run and probably sat there. She probably held me and cried. It's in my mind. That's how it happened.
So you come from a house that's just a happy little place.
So my father passed away before Barack Obama was sworn in, and my mother always thought that my dad would just be so pleased that happened, because my father was just, he was a liberal-minded guy.
He was
forward-thinking, and I think he just would have been so excited for that country.
He knows.
Well, but here's what we did. So at the inauguration, my mother got out all of her old parliamentary gowns from when my dad was a member of parliament, and her and my aunt and my sisters all dressed up in her old gowns and hats and first oaths and stuff, and they watched the inauguration, and they took my dad's urn and they put it on his rocking chair so that he could watch the inauguration of Barack Obama. His urn! You were
in the rocking chair.
In this chair.
I love the whole dress.
And they called me up and they say, come over after work, and I show up and all my kooky relatives are wearing hats and things, and my dad's beautiful thing is there on the rocking chair. And I said, wait, we're not done yet. So I ran downstairs and we had a copper bust of JFK. I brought it up and I put it on the floor beside my dad's urn, and we all watched Barack Obama get sworn in. My dad and JFK's bust and my crazy aunt and my mother's.
What dress did you wear?
Stop it! We have a huge show today. Rob Larkin is here. Movember. He's running 60 kilometers to raise awareness for Movember. And
Movember. You know what that is, eh? That's sort of a Nazi.
Okay, didn't mean to do that. No. I meant Movember.
Yeah. Yes.
But then later in the show, you guys, we're not going to banter anymore, because I did an interview yesterday with. Because
he's hogging the whole show.
I'm hogging the whole show. Not me. Ron Moffat, wrongly accused of murder at the age of 14 in Toronto. The story is incredible. At the Library library this weekend. The book is being launched locally, The Boy and the Bicycle. You've got to watch this interview. It's a lot of the show today, but it's so worth it.
It's
and Luann's
so
a great sport that she allowed me to take away all of her time on air.
This is important.
So
really.
Anyway.
Yeah, I hope you watch, because it's a very important story.
You're the best. So come back and please enjoy the rest of the show. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Mornings with Luann and Tim, and Rob Larkin is here. Rob is a local paramedic. Sault Ste. Marie, what do you call yourself? Is it Sault Ste. EMS or what is it?
Yeah, Sault Ste. Marie EMS.
Yeah. Paramedics, you guys are pretty known in the community for doing wonderful events and being involved and supporting a variety of causes. I can see you have your Movember mustache on. Tell me what you're doing.
This Sunday, I'm doing a 60-kilometer run, and it's for Movember.
You're crazy. But I was telling Rob when he first arrived, I said, I kind of creeped your Facebook page. You are a bit of you're just a natural athlete, aren't you?
I wouldn't call myself
Okay, well, how many I saw you surfing on your pages.
Yep.
So where do you surf?
Everywhere. Costa Rica, Hawaii, Cuba.
Wow. Yeah. You used to wrestle, I take it?
Yeah, in high school, yeah.
In high school, I saw you play football in high school? Yeah. I saw you with a bicycle like you were on some kind of a ride or something. When was that about?
Triathlon in St. Joe's Island.
Oh, the St. Joe's Island Triathlon.
Yes, yeah.
What's the third thing they do? Biking, running?
Swimming.
You do have to swim too, so you swim as well?
Yeah, not very well.
Okay. But the running thing, you take that seriously?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been running?
Running for probably 7 years now. Distance running, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, so you've trained?
Yeah.
You've done marathons?
I've done 4 full marathons.
Tell me where what?
In Toronto is the one I've done mostly, and one in Traverse City also.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've been a paramedic how long now?
About just over 5 years now.
Are you from the Sioux originally?
From the Sioux.
Born and raised and stayed here to work?
Not born, but raised.
Raised.
Went up north to work for a little bit, but then came back to the Sioux.
Wedding ring? Family here?
Wedding ring, wife.
A wife?
And dogs and cats.
And dogs and cats. Fantastic. So tell me about, has cancer affected you in your personal life, Rob?
So, not my family specifically. My wife's family, she's had some family members who she's lost to cancer.
Right.
And then, friends, co-workers. I mean, it's hard to find anyone really who's not touched by cancer, right?
Yeah. And now I'm at the age now where I've got to go for all these special, prostate. There's all new kinds of cancers you got to worry about as you get older.
Yeah.
So and my father actually had a history of cancer, so I have to go get checked regularly.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's genetic, right? It can be genetic. What are the kinds of cancers that we're most concerned about being gentlemen?
Right. So for men, obviously, there's specific cancers, right? That's prostate, testicular, penile.
Yeah.
Those are the big ones, really.
And so preventative measures would be to see a doctor and get checked. And self-examination too, I understand you're supposed to, guys, get friendly with your testicles. You're supposed to know how they feel, right, when they're normal, so that if there's any kind of abnormalities, you'll know that they're there. So checking once in a while and making sure you get those examinations done.
For sure.
So do people pledge for you, Rob? Is that are we raising money or is it awareness?
Yeah. So both.
Both, obviously.
So
awareness.
The goal of Movember is obviously grow a mustache, right? Gets people talking.
Was that hard for you?
It was very difficult.
I was telling Rob, I looked at when I was looking at the Facebook page, I thought, this guy's got a baby face. I wonder if he can actually grow a mustache. You did.
I did. It took a while. So yeah, raising awareness, right? So the mustache gets people talking.
Right.
And then raising funds, right? So, and those funds go directly through the Movember Foundation. They invest them specifically in projects for male-specific cancers, and also with that mental health and suicide awareness. So they lump that all together.
Suicide awareness, I just found this out. It is one of the leading causes of death in men between a certain age. I think it's 25 to 40 something. It's like
for sure. And in Canada, 75% of suicide deaths are all men.
One of the things that they say is men tend to die from violent suicide deaths, as opposed to women do a lot of apparently more passive poisoning and that kind of thing, whereas, which is I think attributes to that high rate too.
I'm sure, yeah.
Men, there are more suicide attempts by women than they are rescued before, whereas gentlemen don't. So a lot of pressures in our lives that
for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing with men, and this falls into the cancer area too, is we don't seek help. We're stubborn, right?
Stubborn. We don't ask for directions.
We don't ask for directions or help. We try and keep it all in, right? I can handle this myself. I'm a man, right?
Right.
That's the big thing about Movember, is trying to break that, right?
Break that stigma.
Go get help. Go see your doctor. Talk to your friends. Talk to your family.
Open up about mental health issues.
That's right. Stop men dying young. Like, end it now, right?
Stress can cause cancer.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
These are all toxic things in our lives that we've got to be really aware of.
Yeah.
And you're helping us stay aware. Now tell me about the run.
So the run, starting in Echo Bay, I'm going to start specifically at the fire hall.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. I'm going to run.
Are your buddies going to show up to cheer you on? The firefighters?
No, there's going to be one of my coworkers is going to drive a ERV behind me with the lights on, just on that highway there.
You're going to have an escort?
Yeah, for a little bit of the way. So we'll go through the old highway, make my way up into town to the number 4 fire hall here.
Okay.
Which is where all the ambulances are based out of too.
Right on, right at the water tower area.
Yeah. And I'll do a little 5K loop there, so some of my coworkers and friends are going to join.
They're going to join you for a part of your run.
That's right. Little manageable 5K for people.
Right on.
Yeah. And then I'll continue down into the east end, along the waterfront, Queen Street sort of hub trail area.
Oh, okay.
Up into Second Line.
So you're looping back.
Yep. Up to Second Line and then all the way west to Prince Township.
Prince Township, where you wrap up at that fire station.
That's it, yep.
Amazing. Can people help right now? Can they contribute? Can they do anything, Rob? Is there a way?
So the best way to do it is to go to Movember.com.
Okay.
Right? And if you search for SSM Paramedics, that's the team, SAULT Paramedics. That's our team. So all the coworkers, we got together, we're raising money as a team. So you can either donate to that team or donate to my page specifically. It doesn't matter. It's all going to the same place, right?
All right, Rob. Thanks for coming in today,
Thank you,
and
Tim.
thanks for all you do in your line of work. We really appreciate you, all of you saving lives and being there for all of us in our traumatic moments.
For sure.
So Rob Larkin, Movember, 60-kilometer run this Sunday, and once again you can go to his Facebook page or the SSM Paramedics page and make a donation. And guys, come on, get yourselves checked out. We'll be back with more after this. Don't go anywhere. I'm rather honored today to have with me in the studio Mr. Ron Moffat. Ron, I want to shake your hand. It's so nice for you to come in, and thanks for talking to us today. Ron is the subject of a book that's being launched here in Sault Ste. Marie. It's already had your launch in Toronto, hasn't it? The launch but now there's a local connection here, so we're having a book launch in Sault Ste. Marie as part of the fundraiser for the library. Author Nate Hendley has taken on Ron's story. It's called The Boy on the Bicycle. This was a story that captured the attention of Canada, didn't it, at one time, Ron, when it happened?
Yes, it did.
We're going back to the year of, what, 1956? 1956. You were 14 years old?
Yes.
And tell me, the neighborhood you lived in Toronto was?
Spadina and Queen.
Spadina and Queen? Lived with your mother?
The school I went to was right behind, it was Ogden Street School.
Yeah.
It was right behind the Horseshoe Tavern, which is a famous
it's still there?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. My sister goes there for music all the time, to the Horseshoe Tavern.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And now, you were a typical 14-year-old kid. You know, you were skipping school sometimes. You lived in a bit of a rough neighborhood, would you say? Or
yes,
what?
it was.
Yeah,
yes,
a bit of a rough neighborhood.
Yes.
And for part-time job, you worked at the CNE, at the Canadian National Exhibition.
I worked there 2 summers in a row.
2 summers in a row. Tell me about that ride again. What was it called?
It's called the Rotor, and it looked like the old washing machine, you know, the drum. And they had rubber walls.
Yeah.
And people used to get in it, stand against the wall, and then it start rotating, and the floor would drop out.
And the centrifugal force would hold it against the walls.
Yeah,
this was the ride that you sort of were in control of when you were you ran that ride. I mean, you.
No, I didn't run it.
Oh, I thought maybe you worked on that ride.
No, I worked. We used to put on exhibitions. One girl, she used to go in there on a bicycle.
She'd go in the thing on a bicycle.
And ride around on that, amazing. And I used to go in there, and I could almost stand out. Straight parallel out from the wall.
From the wall. Yeah. And you said after the ride was over, and when the grounds closed, you could collect a lot of money from underneath the ride.
It was over. You could go underneath the ride and dig up the money. Because all the loose change would come out of people's pockets.
And you had a bunch of friends you'd hang around with, and this one time you went to see a movie? At the movie theater? What movie were you? Was it a Kurt Who was it?
The night of the murder.
Night of the murder.
It was a double feature.
Double feature.
And one was called The Hunt. With Robert Taylor.
Okay.
I always remember that movie because at the end of the movie he was froze to death in a cave.
Okay.
And then there was cartoons, of course.
Yeah.
And then the second movie was Ulysses.
And that was with Kirk
Douglas.
Kirk Douglas,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay. So there you are. You're at the movie, and then that same night, just so happened, back down at the CNE grounds.
Yeah.
A seven-year-old boy.
Wayne Millette.
Wayne Millette was murdered.
Yeah, and by a boy on a bicycle.
A boy on
who
a
had
bicycle.
been talking to a security guard.
Boy on a bicycle leaving after he committed the crime. He actually stopped on his way out.
He was quite bold about doing stuff like that. After he would go talk to the police every day, and apparently when he murdered the kid in the Don Valley, he come up out of there. There was somebody he was talking to them.
It was a woman, I think, that he talked to.
A woman,
there.
yeah.
So,
but anyway, this security guard
just
talking to him.
Kid.
He would have known who he was.
Right.
But
so the kid rides away, and then they discover later on that there's a 7-year-old boy has been suffocated, face down.
Yeah, brutally molested.
And bitten.
They said that he figured he was jumping on him with his knees and everything.
Gosh.
It was terrible.
So then, what's happening in your life? Meanwhile, you go home from the movie, and as with some kids, you had a fight with your parents or whatever. You were on the outs. You were hiding out in a closet in the tenement downstairs in the building. You lived in an apartment building.
Working in a bowling alley at night to support.
What was the name of that bowling alley? The name?
Cozy Bowl.
Cozy Bowl Bowling Alley. Okay, so just by fate, everything's coming together now. So the boy's murdered on the CNE grounds, and there's a guy a boy on a bicycle is seen leaving the grounds. The police start looking for boys who have been declared missing or are on the run because they figure whoever committed this crime is probably on the run.
Yeah.
And they find out that your mother says, I can't find my son, Ron Moffat. He's gone missing, and so boom. And then there's also a connection with Ron Moffat and the CNE, and the police think
a target.
You're a target because he's missing, and he worked there, and he's a teenage boy. Boom. And they find you in the closet.
I thought it was truant officers.
You thought you were getting in trouble for skipping out of school.
Exactly.
They bring you to the police station, and they tell you, what do they say?
They started saying, now you got to start telling us the truth. Start talking. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I thought they were so mad because I didn't go to school.
They thought you were mad because you didn't go to school.
But
meanwhile,
no, they're talking about me. I'm the suspect
in a murder.
In a murder case. Yeah.
You were 14, and one of these police officers was well known because he was the guy that took down.
He was considered one of the top detectives in Canada. Because he caught the Boyd gang.
He caught the Boyd gang. We shot that film right here in Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah.
So here, go on.
And the other detective, Bertie Simmons, went to school with my mother.
Now there's a small world. The guy that's interrogating you.
Yeah.
They interrogated you for 5 hours.
Yes.
No parents.
No.
No lawyer.
No.
No nothing.
No.
14-year-old boy, terrified. Under duress, you confess. And then
they got in my face and said it's going to get rough. They threatened physical violence.
They did.
They didn't do it, but they threatened. And in them days, the police were well known for using physical violence.
Yeah.
You look at the old 50s movies and what did they do? And that's what they did.
Right.
Yeah.
So your confession then takes you to trial, judge only, no jury, judge only.
You don't have a jury in a juvenile trial.
No. And they say. They even said that the bite marks matched. They took your bite.
They
made your bite down.
impressions of my teeth.
And they said the bite marks matched, but of course they did not.
Yeah.
But they did not match.
No.
Of course not.
No.
Also, you had friends. You were at the movie house with...
I had, the night when I was at the theater, my best friend was the usher working that night, and I was sitting beside his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Plus the owner of the theater knew me because I used to help with the marquee, change the marquee, and 4 other people in there.
7
went to court.
7 witnesses.
Yeah, went to court to testify that at the time of the murder, I was at that theater, miles away.
But these hotshot police officers, they figured it all out, didn't they? They said, oh no, he got on a bicycle at some point during the movie and rode from Bloor Street. Where was the theater?
Bathurst and Bloor.
Bathurst and Bloor, all the way down to the CNE grounds, killed a kid, stopped for a bite to eat, went back to the movie theater, and nobody even missed him. This is what they contested, and the judge bought it.
is my confession. The confession overruled, to him, the confession overruled everything. Didn't matter about my witnesses.
Found guilty of murder?
Yeah.
Did they call it murder? It was murder. And you went to where'd you go?
Well, before the judge sentenced me, he wanted a psychiatric evaluation because anybody would do such a horrendous murder of a little child. There's got to be something wrong up here. So they sent me to Toronto Psychiatric for 30-day evaluation.
Right.
And at the psychiatric hospital, they did a what they call a truth serum test on me. They give you a sodium pentothal.
Yeah.
And they asked me that question because you're not unconscious. You're semi like in a daze.
Right.
I can remember what they asked me, and they asked me 3 times, did I kill little Wayne Millette? And I said no, but it was never brought into court.
That never came into court.
No, never came into court.
And then they obviously were okay. So now let's talk to Nate a little bit. Hi, Nate.
Sure.
Thanks for hanging in there. Now, Nate, in your research, you came across what was really going on in Toronto with someone whose last name was Woodcock. Is that right?
That's correct. There was a boy slightly older than Ron, and his name was Peter Woodcock, very severely maladjusted. He was passed around Children's Aid for a number of years, had a lot of emotional difficulties, picked on by all his peers. And when he grew older, when he became a teenager, he started bicycling around the city. And while he was doing these explorations, he would sometimes approach young children, chat them up. They'd be impressed by his bike. He'd take them to a secluded area and he would sexually molest them or beat them up or both. And Peter Woodcock was the one who encountered little Wayne Millette at the C&E grounds in September 1956. That was the boy on the bicycle.
Nate, was that his second victim?
No, Wayne was his first victim.
Wayne was his first, okay.
Yeah, Wayne was the first victim, and while Ron was locked up
in custody,
two more children were killed.
Another little boy
named Gary Morris, who was murdered at Cherry Beach in October 1956.
And a little girl.
And then a little girl, Carol Voice, who was killed in the Don Valley in January 1957. And it wasn't until the third murder of Carol Voice that authorities finally started to think, well, maybe we locked up the wrong guy for the Wayne Millette murder. Like it took, that was one of the most horrendous things about this case, was that because they grabbed the wrong suspect right at the beginning, 2 more children had to die. And Peter Woodcock was eventually brought into custody and confessed quite freely to murdering these 3 children and molesting about a dozen others. And Woodcock's forthrightness, though, led to Ron's release, because Peter Woodcock subsequently testified at Ron had a retrial.
Yes.
In April 1957, and Peter Woodcock, testified.
Ron was saying that Peter was actually a little, he was angry. Because, tell us.
I took credit for murdering little Wayne Millette.
That's correct.
How crazy is that?
There's an Ottawa crime writer, Mark Bourrie, wrote a book about Peter Woodcock, and that was a conversation he had with Peter Woodcock when Woodcock was institutionalized. Mark Bourrie asked him, why did you step forward and admit to killing, Wayne Millette? What was it to you? And Ron is absolutely right that Peter Woodcock said that he was kind of miffed because this other guy was taking credit for his work, his killing, and he didn't really like that. He was annoyed that everyone thought that Ron Moffat killed Wayne when he did it, and he was almost proud of this fact that he had murdered 3 children.
Now, and it was the book that you were mentioning, the author of the other book's name was Bourrie, was it?
Yeah, Mark Bourrie.
Okay, so Mark, Ron, was it in Mark's book that you read a chapter on yourself and you thought, this isn't accurate? Have I got the story right?
Exactly.
And they used a different name for you?
Yeah, they called me Ronald Mowat.
Mowat.
M-O-W-A-A-T-T.
Now, because you were a minor, your name wasn't supposed to be published.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed to, yeah.
But what Nate found, and Nate, in your research, you did come across Ron's real name in one of the police files, is that right?
Correct. Well, in two different sources.
Okay.
In police files, I was, through another crime writer, I was given photocopies of a lot of the original police memos and statements in the investigation.
No, that's right,
my official, I made some requests, freedom of information with Toronto Police that went nowhere, but received some information from another writer. And they say, you know, they use Ron's name all over the place. I have a copy of his so-called confession, where, you know, it's his name is out there. And there was one book, this amazing book called The Report of the Chief Constable of Toronto Police or something. And it was done every year, and it recorded like every single crime committed in the city, like just this exhaustive thing. And in 1956, there were 9 recorded murders in the city of Toronto, which had a population of about 600,000. And Ron is named in that book, and it's one of the only original sources of information from that era, because Ron's name was kept out of the media at the time because he was tried as a juvenile.
Right.
The law, by the way, says that if he's over 18, not in prison, and wants to have his name used, then it's perfectly okay. So just to clarify that, in case anyone's wondering.
Now, let's sort of fast forward, Ron. How did you connect with Nate? Now, had you heard of Nate because of his work with the Truscott case, the Stephen Truscott case?
No, not till I went online.
Not till you went online.
And
okay, because for those of you who don't know, Nate is a celebrated crime author. Among other things, Nate, you've done some really crazy stuff with your career. You've done a lot of editing. You've written about airplanes and metallurgy and all kinds of stuff, haven't you?
Yes. It's quite a wide swath of stuff.
But the crime writing is obviously a passion.
Absolutely, yes, obviously. And go ahead.
No, I think probably what I'm going to do right now, gentlemen, is I'm going to take a quick break, commercial break, because I do want to come back to just how the two of you connected and where we are today. And then, of course, I need to talk about this library event that's coming up, because I've been sitting here enthralled with Ron for the last half hour. And for the fact that people are in Sault Ste. Marie, and you live in Sault Ste. Marie, you're a native here now, Ron. The fact that people in Sault Ste. Marie have the opportunity to go and meet Ron in person and Nate at the library and hear this story, I think it's just going to be an amazing evening. It's so compelling. So stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We may have to divide this into 2 when this airs. We may have to come back to this as a part 2 later in the show. But we're not going to go anywhere, because this is just too good to stop right now. We'll be back with more on Mornings with Luann and Tim and Nate Henley, the boy on the bicycle, and our guest Ron Moffat right after this. Back to Mornings with Luann and Tim. I'm in the studio now with Ron Moffat, who is the subject of the book The Boy on the Bicycle by Nate Henley. And there's a signature event going on at the library this Friday where you can meet these 2 fine gentlemen and hear in person the story of Ron Moffat, wrongly accused of the murder of Wayne Millette, 7 years old. Now, you had never shared this part of your life with your present, your up-to-date present family, right?
No.
So what made you decide to come forward and share your story?
Well, about 4 years ago, I was seen an article on the internet about the serial killer that died in Penetang, and his name, David Kruger. This is before the Freddy Krueger thing about it. But as I got reading it, his real name was Peter Woodcock.
And you went, that's the guy.
I was
convicted of his crime.
He killed the little boy. So I read farther, and I noticed that Mark Murray out of, I think he's out of Ottawa. He's well known anyway. He wrote a book about this fella.
About Peter Woodcock?
Called By Reason of Insanity.
Okay.
So I got a link to the book, and there's a review of the book, and I noticed there was a chapter about me. But they didn't use my real name, they used Ronald Mallett.
Right.
And I found that the information wasn't quite accurate, so I tracked down Mark's email contact. He phoned me back, and we agreed he was going to do a revised edition, but he said, you want to put your name out? So I said, I'd like to talk to my wife first. So I talked to my wife. She said, yeah, it's about time we did this. Get rid of all this.
Your kids didn't know? Nobody knew?
No, nobody ever knew. I kept this all to myself for years.
Wow.
But anyway, then after I agreed to let Mark write a revised edition about me and that chapter, I said, well, why don't I go ahead and tell my side of the story?
Exactly.
If I can get a writer or somebody interested in doing this, it may be a magazine article or whatever. So I started looking for Canadian crime writers. and one of the ones that impressed me was Nate.
Because of the Trescott work.
Yeah.
So then, Nate, let's go to you hear from Ron Moffat, and what do you figure?
Well, Ron contacted me by email in September 2012, and I had, as I said, written a book about Stephen Truscott, who was 14, small-town Ontario teenager, 14 years old, wrongly convicted of murder in 1959. And Ron said, well, I have a similar story to tell. I was also 14 and wrongly convicted of murder in the 1950s in Toronto. And I was intrigued right off the bat, but as a journalist, I have to, verify what I'm getting, because you do occasionally have people as a crime writer contact you, and they have all sorts of stories. So I checked some archival information on the internet of stories in the 1950s in the Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail, and they confirmed everything that Ron was telling me, that there had been this terrible murder at the CNE in the fall of 1956, that Ron had been wrongly arrested for this, and 2 more children went on to die before the real killer was caught. So we started exchanging emails and information. At first I thought this might be an interesting magazine article. I couldn't really get any interest on that, so I talked to a publisher I work with, and she said, this sounds like it would be a great book. Let's go for this. Unfortunately, I couldn't jump on it right away because I had been contracted with another publisher to do a different book.
You were working on a big project, weren't you?
Yeah, it was like 120,000 words on cons and hoaxes, and I had, a contract. I had contractual obligations. So I have to say that Ron was incredibly patient during this process, because I said, look, I'm really sorry. I mean, your case is amazing, but
well, I guess after waiting 67 years or whatever, how many years was it?
Well, we've, as I said, Ron first contacted me 2012.
62 years.
Yeah, and we exchanged multitudes of emails, phone calls, Skype, but we didn't actually meet face-to-face till 2016. My girlfriend and I came up to Sault Ste. Marie, and we met Ron and his wife, Debbie, at a restaurant and had a great conversation. So finally, the book is out. We had our official launch August of this year. Ron has been incredibly patient. And it was difficult gathering information about this, because the official channels that I approached didn't seem very eager to share, or claim that they just simply didn't have this information anymore. In my naivety, I assumed that all the court transcripts for murder trials were still available, and I discovered that that's actually not the case, that a lot of court documents, especially from the 50s, are just simply tossed out, and they've not been digitized, and they haven't been preserved on microfilm, because they're just simply too many, pieces of paper lying around. I did eventually get lots of information through other channels. Toronto Reference Library had some very excellent obscure material about 2 of the places Ron was in custody at, the Bowmanville Training School and the Guelph Reformatory. And as I said, I had a fellow crime writer provided me with a wealth of material, of police memos and documents, and allegedly Ron's alleged confession that he gave under a great deal of duress.
Yes. And you also had the man himself, and I tell you,
yes,
my experience with him over the last half hour, you're a charming and a wonderful storyteller. So I can just imagine people attending at the library, what a treat it will be, not just to meet Ron and hear from him firsthand, but Nate, to hear about what you went through to get this book written. And I'd also like to point out, Ron, that it wasn't easy for you after you were released from custody. Your life changed your life.
It was traumatic.
Traumatic. Yeah. You went back to a psychiatric hospital for some time.
Yeah.
You struggled. You had trust issues, obviously.
And Sarnia, I was at psychiatric unit here.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it difficult for you to sit down and recount this again with Nate?
At first, yeah. Then because Nate would ask me questions, and so I'd have to think back to them days, and
not stuff you necessarily want to recall.
Brought back a lot of bad memories, but at the same time, it was therapeutic. I was getting all this out of me.
Good.
You know, I've been carrying this around, this nightmare inside of me all these years.
Right.
And, yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I've got to cut it short. I wish I could talk longer, but I think if we end it now, it gives people more reason to go to the library and meet you in person and to hear more about this story. So the presentation will include question and answers after Nate gives his presentation and after Ron also has a chance to speak. It is at the public library. That will be the James McIntyre Centennial Branch this Friday. 7 p.m. is the time. We'll be putting a graphic up on the screen in post-production, so you'll be able to get that information. And of course, you can go online to the Sault Ste. Marie Public Library site and get information there on their events page. Nate, thank you again for joining us via Skype. Thanks for your time, and thank you for helping Ron get his story told. I think
absolutely. It's been an honor working with Ron and being able to, tell a story that a lot of people have either forgotten about or just simply have never heard of, and to indicate that unfortunately these kind of things still happen today. Wrongful convictions based on false confessions.
And Ron certainly has shown what a sense of humor can do, because not only has he survived this ordeal, but he's made a career as a cartoonist of all things.
Yes.
What's ironic also is that at one point you end up working in a bicycle shop, didn't you? Working for a bicycle at CCM. Oh boy. Okay, so check it out at the library this Friday, and thanks again to my guests. We'll be back with more Mornings with Lou Ann and Tim right after this.
Thank you.
An absolutely phenomenal story. That's one of my biggest fears. I've had nightmares of being framed.
I want to thank you for allowing me to take so much time up on the show today.
Absolutely. Definitely worth it.
That book you're going to get at Amazon.ca, Nate Hendley's website, Five Rivers Publishing, or go to the library. They'll have copies there for sale.
And it's called Boy on the Bicycle.
The Boy on the Bicycle.
Thank you so much for watching this morning. Friday tomorrow. Come on back.
We'll see you then.